It's been long past the days of AirCS. The recent efforts to create a new vanilla server in the Bits and Bytes community were successful, but sustaining the server was a completely different story. But what happened to it? This was Project Aren. The goal of Project Aren was to make a metro system for two reasons. One, for nostalgia purposes, and two, the main one, to combat the monopoly of corporations. I've said in the first episode that I didn't ever think my efforts would be as successful as the last version of AirCS, but I don't think I failed. We did have our fair share of community contributions. Sure, it wasn't the members jerry-rigging their own lines like I was hoping for, but no contribution is too small. Now, what happened with the Victor-hosted Bits and Bytes Vanilla? Well, it began to have a major problem that the original Bits and Bytes Vanilla did: inactivity. No one was really up to playing anymore, but the reason goes quite deeper than simply inactivity. Truth is, we were getting quite burned out. In fact, I didn't even want to record episode 6 after I was done Project Aren episode 5. Sure, there were a few people that would join from time to time, but that pales in comparison to the massive amounts of people that joined in the server's first few days alone. The server just advanced too quickly. There was nothing to do anymore. Everything was getting explored until nothing remained. This soon became a problem for the community, and it didn't take long before everything was washed away. So how much did Project Aren progress before the server reset? Episode 1 is where all of it started. The CS, the Central Station. Though a bit before I made Central Station, I built a station at Sunflower City. The footage that I created, however, was completely unusable, so it was just skipping a lot of frames, and it wasn't Premiere's fault this time. I wanted to make the Central Station just like its predecessor, but I couldn't since it was very expensive to make, requiring massive amounts of quartz and also a lot of glass. That was not a very easy task, so I made the station smaller and with less of a futuristic look to it. We connected our first line in episode 2, although by the end of the episode that line still remained incomplete as I was lacking any rails on the track. I did solve that problem by episode 3, and then came the branding logo. It took a lot of concrete to recreate the logo, and it had a very minor change made to it. Then came something significant. There hadn't yet been any nether-based lines for any of the train systems out there. I sought to change that. See, Victor lived really far away again, so making an overworld-based station would be quite the expensive task. In the prior version to AirCS, this was solved by making Station 3 in the Nether. And that's exactly what I did in this version. I was a bit reluctant at first, so I originally settled on building a station at Shift City, but I eventually took the challenge and started work. It was a bit tough at first, as I needed to find my way to the connecting station, and going down was certainly the difficult task when faced with lava just below my very narrow track. But then, I made it there. It was a difficult destination indeed, but I managed to pull through. AirCS became, and is still, the only transportation system to expand into the Nether. Episode 6 brought about an upcoming station at Inky Town. That episode, however, was a tough one to record. It took a span of 3 days to record. Not because I was locking myself in for long recording sessions, but I really wasn't up to playing most of the time. Since it was about AirCS, I felt obligated to document the process. Sure, there were some things to do, like, again, expanding further, and also making improvements to AirCS. That was about it. There wasn't much that was really significant. In fact, a lot of the time was spent just exploring the world, seeing what destinations I could bring upon next. The only thing that was really much of interest to me was the Day 1000 fireworks special, because I knew that was something I could take and turn into something interesting, especially since I had the footage from others who were willing to send it over. I was in the middle of recording what was supposed to be episode 7, but I was caught in the middle of a revolution to reset the server. Since people were adamant about resetting the server and were desperately waiting for Victor to wake up to do it, I held off on recording the rest of the episode. Then, the battle to reset the server was won. You might think that would ruin the series, but really I was supporting the revolution to reset. While AirCS won't be able to keep growing, it pretty much is mostly complete. This is AirCS as it stands, frozen in time. As it is now, there are only 3 stations, all connecting to Central Station. Unlike its predecessor, this incarnation of AirCS can house 12 stations rather than 10, mostly due to a numbering error that I made while building the second floor. This version of AirCS also utilizes all of its sides to link up stations, rather than being limited to just 2 walls. It also doesn't include Aren chant, for obvious reasons. AirCS in the Nether was originally supposed to house more than just Contemporary Valley. I intended another destination to be New Verona, though those plans were quickly shut down as I've been embargoed from building there. I was doubting myself a bit in the introduction of episode 1, but AirCS did have its share of community contributions, and I would be selfish if I didn't mention those. Back in episode 5, Serverlion donated some powered rails to Project Aren courtesy of his in-game company, Dunder Mifflin, yes, like in The Office, and I've used those rails in AirCS's station at Contemporary Valley. Miles from Right Angle Productions was kind enough to make a road leading from Right Valley to Central Station, due to it being so close in proximity. In episode 6, I received another donation from Inkydink, who donated regular, powered, and activator rails. I've used those rails at Inkytown Station. One contribution to Project Aren unrelated to AirCS itself came from Squiddy Grill and also Victor Tran. They provided the additional angles for the Day 1000 feature. In what was supposed to be Project Aren Episode 7, Michael, also known as Total Tower Tech, made improvements to the track between Inkytown and AirCS, adding more planks and also making a glass enclosure, something that I kept holding back on. He also left me a donation which I wasn't able to open up since my name was misspelled on the sign, but now that the world was archived and since server plugins don't work in single player, I'll finally be able to open it up and see what secrets are being held inside. Well, looks like I was given not only rails, but also theming materials that I constantly use. Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you to all who contributed to AirCS. And that, my friends, concludes the story of Project Aren. The second vanilla server may have been reset, but maybe in the future there might be a place for Project Aren Season 2. But for now, I leave with the old saying, only time will tell. I thank you for joining me along the ride, and I hope to see you all next time.